Hello everyone, this is Courtney from Coloring by Courtney. It's a snowy day here in Maine, so I thought why not make a tutorial video. This is kind of going to be a review slash tutorial. Faber-Castell sent me these awesome watercolor pencils. They're the artist's grade Albrecht Durer. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's just how I imagine it being pronounced. I'm sure it sounds way better in a German accent. So how about we get started? The 36 set. And there's a great variety of colors here. Faber-Castell really knows how to pick out their colors and give you a really good variety even in the smaller sets, which is really nice. I like that, you know, they don't lack in any color even in their smaller sets. In some sets, even when they're like 24, 36, even sometimes 48, you won't get the kind of range that you see here. So we have our grays, we have reds, oranges, blues, purples. We only have one really purpley color. I kind of wish there was a few more purples to work with. Maybe a couple less greens, that way it could have balanced out, even a couple less reds. It's very prominent in reds and greens. The blues I like the abundance of blues. I use blues a lot, so that's good for me. But I feel like they probably could have left out a couple reds and maybe a couple of the greens. Two of them kind of looked the same, so when I did my my color charting, two of them seemed kind of similar, so I feel like they definitely could have left out a couple of these to maybe substitute for another purple. Even a lighter purple would have been really nice. But other than that, it's a very good variety. You could probably even mix a purple and some white and get a lighter purple, so I'm really not too worried about it there. So I'll bring over my chart, and I haven't added any water to it yet. I'm going to get rid of these actually. Move them out of the frame. And I'm going to grab one pencil for you. So as you can see, they're hexagonal. And I don't know how well you can tell that in the frame, but I mean, the way it's sharpened, you can definitely tell. So it's hexagonal, which I like because it's different than the polychromos, which are a round barrel. So they're very easy to differentiate when they're side by side. So if you were to, you know, organize them out of the tins, you'd be able to immediately know that this isn't a watercolor pencil. And it also says Albrecht Durer on the pencil barrel. So it's a very nice little difference there between their polychromos and their watercolor pencils. The other thing was that I noticed that their names are fairly similar. There's a couple that I think don't exist in the polychromos names. I could be wrong. One of them being Dark Indigo. I don't think that's one of the polychromos names, but for the most part, these are pretty much the same shades as the polychromos, which will work out great because you could probably mix them together, and they'll probably go on together really nicely. Now, these are just some swatches that I made, no water added. They lay down really nicely, very smooth, like creamy and soft, and not so similar to the polychromos. They're definitely a little bit creamier than the polychromos, which I really like. So if you were to want to use these without water, you could probably definitely do that. But watercolor pencils are way more fun with some water. So I usually use brushes. I use round brushes. These are meant for watercolor. I have some fine ones, a medium one, and kind of like a more broader one. But I'm not going to do that for this video. For the sake of the video and to save some time, I'm just going to use my trusty Pentel Aquash water pen. So I'm going to put those away. But the brushes are nice to use sometimes to get some different texture going on. Also, if you definitely needed a tinier nib than what comes with the Pentel water brush. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you how these go with some water. And they're really, this is probably going to be a little bit harder to see because it's the cream. And as I get darker, you'll be able to see it. But you can really see that brighten up. And they just melt when you add water. And then 1 second, I need to find a piece of paper to kind of clean my brush off. Okay. It really is amazing how it automatically looks like paint. And the colors are very bright, vibrant. So you can see we have some really nice tones here. And see some of them are kind of similar, so I definitely feel like they maybe could have spared a red or two and gave us some more purple to work with. That's a really nice color. I like that one. And even the purple isn't even named purple. It's a mauve color, so that's as purple as we're gonna get. And dark indigo is the one that I'm pretty sure isn't a name in the polychromos, but I could be wrong on that. Phthalo Blue is one of my favorite colors. I like how that looks. Again, these two greens somewhat similar. I'm going to zoom in here and kind of show you how these lines just kind of disappear. So you can see how I kind of just scribbled there. And it's not a very smooth application that I did. But watch when I add water. It completely melts away. And some cheaper watercolor pencils won't do that. When you lay down the pencil, if you lay it down very splotchy and you can see your line strokes, when you add the water, you can sometimes still see the line strokes behind the wash that you just did with the water. So this just goes to show that these are very, very high-end, high pigmented watercolor pencil. And I'm cleaning off my brush as best as I can before I start laying down some water, but I do notice that these seem like they're going to be very easy to mix, which is a plus. My other thing with this was the grays, because they included 2 warm grays, and I kind of wish they would have did 1 warm and 1 cold, because cold gray just looks really nice, especially in contrast with a warm, so I kind of wish they would have included that. Well, that's just me being picky. So there you go. You can really see how lovely these watercolors are, and they just look like completely different when water is added. Very bold, very vibrant. You can make them as opaque as you'd like too, which I'm going to show you in this next demonstration. A lot of people think that watercolors are supposed to be transparent, which they can be if you make them that way. So this is going to be a little bit different. I'm used to working with actual watercolor pans. I actually have my set here. They're koi watercolors. These are really nice. I like them a lot. But I'm used to working with these kinds of watercolors. So it's a lot easier to, you know, control your pigment, I guess, and making transparent or more opaque with more color. So for the pencils, it's a little bit of a learning curve for me, but I've practiced a little bit, so I've kind of gotten the hang of it. So what you're gonna do is, for a more transparent color, I'm gonna do a little bit of a ombre type transition from lightest to darkest. And to get a very transparent color, you're gonna use the least amount of pencil pigment and the most water. So water here for watercolors equals white when it comes to acrylic paints. So acrylic paints, when you want a lighter version of a color, you add white. Well, for watercolors, you add water. So if you're an acrylic painter or you know something about acrylics, then you kind of will guess that that's how that works. And you probably already know that by now. So least amount of pencil pigment for a more transparent, lighter color, more pencil pigment layers for the darkest, more opaque color. So I'm gonna go and show you how to do that right now. I'm gonna use my Phthalo Blue. It's one of my favorite colors, so that's why I'm going to use it. So basically what you're gonna do is you're not going to fill up the whole section. So say you're coloring a flower, don't color the entire petal. Only color a little bit. Maybe go a little bit less than halfway. And don't lay too much color down. I'm gonna zoom in. Ooh. Sorry about that. Okay. So again, not so much pencil pigment, and trying to make it not so light. Ooh. There we go. Okay. And we're just gonna go and add some water and kind of push it around. And I'm just really drawing out all the pencil. And it's a very, very light wash. I really wish that this wasn't so bright on this end. It's very bright in the room just because of the snow outside. So I'm just gonna move that up. So you can see how it's a very, very light wash. And so that's gonna be our lightest amount. Then we're going to go and add just a little bit more pigment. Again, very light pressure, but we're gonna move a little bit more than halfway to get a little bit more pigment down on in the square. And then we'll go and add some water. I'll go and add a little bit more pigment. It's another way you can do it too. You can wet the page first and then add the pencil. So that's our next level. Then we'll go down a little bit more and start laying down a little bit more color. Just a couple layers. Again, the more water you use, the more transparent and light it'll be. So we're working our way up. This time we'll do a full layer going all the way across. Again, just a very light hand. You don't need a lot of pressure. These are a very soft pencil, so it's very easy to lay down color. I'm just gonna add a little bit more. And then we'll go and add our color. And this is a really good exercise for practicing, adding water, making, variations of lightest to darkest, and also helps with blending aspects of it too. So that for this last one, we're gonna add the most pigment. So I'm going to do a full layer all the way across. And then I'll go second layer going horizontally. And we'll just really lay it on there. Again, light pressure, but a few layers, maybe like 3 or 4. And then we'll go and add the water. Also, if you're not that experienced with watercolor pencils, just in general, you might definitely want to start with using this kind of water brush, because it gives you a lot more control with how much water you use. It's a little bit harder to do that with a regular normal brush. So if you're not used to it, definitely maybe invest in one of these water pens. There's different brands. I just like Pentel. It was the cheapest and it came in a 2-pack. So there is our variation. Adding water and using the least amount of water and most pigment. Let me see if I can get a better angle on that. There we go. So you can see that that's quite the variation. So let's try blending. We'll blend, the easiest blend I've found would be to do from a red to an orange to a yellow. It's a nice, it's a nice complemented blend, and it's 3 totally different colors. So I was gonna do a few blues blended, but I figured this will give you a better idea of blending because they're such high contrasted colors. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with my yellow, and I'm just gonna lay some of that down. Let me zoom in. Oop, I always do that. I'll use my yellow. I'm just gonna kind of scribble around here some pigment just to get some pencil on the paper. And then I'm just gonna lay a little bit of orange, but not that much. Only because when red and yellow mix, it makes orange. But just to give that little bit of a easier transition, I'll add a little bit of orange down there. And then some red. Now, the trick with watercolor pencils is you always want to blend with the water lightest to the darkest. Because when you drag the darker color to your lighter color, you might end up darkening your lightest color to not your liking. So what you want to do is you start, let me just make sure this is clean, sorry. Okay. So what you do is you start at the yellow and you blend into your red. And then you can kind of pull where you want some more orange. So it's a very cool way of blending. So they blend very nicely. And you can always, that was just a very quick, light layer of color. So if you wanted it to be more vibrant, you can always go ahead and lay down way more pigment. So let me show you some heavy pigmented blending. So I'll lay a few layers of yellow down. I'll lay a little bit more orange down than I did before. And then I'll add in some red. And this will make for a little bit of a brighter blend. More opaque, not so much brighter. Okay, so my brush is clean. Just definitely way more opaque. You can always clean your brush off and kind of pull the colors into each other. They're definitely very fun to work with. So that's watercolor pencils. Really fun medium, a little bit of a learning curve, but all in all, a really fun way to get some cool results and different textures in a picture. Now I'm going to be doing a video, not right now. I was thinking about doing it in this video, but I figured I'll make that a separate video on its own. And I will color a whole picture out of a book with just these pencils. And that'll be a cool way to showcase that in a coloring book. You just will have to obviously make sure that you're coloring in a book that can handle water. Not all books can. You'll get some buckling, some warping. If you've seen my Inktense Derwent pencil video, you'll see that even Johanna's book warped a little bit with some water. So just be careful with that, because this is watercolor paper. I'm like deceiving you guys because I'm not doing it in a book and it's not even warping or feathering or anything. This is a watercolor journal, so obviously they don't make watercolor coloring books, which that would kind of be cool if you ask me, but maybe that'll be, an idea for a future artist. But for now, the coloring books out on the market, some of the paper is sometimes cheaply used, so just be careful with what you use, what paper you use in your books so that you don't ruin them. I don't want to see you guys ruin your books. So yeah, that's basically it to watercolors. Faber-Castell Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils are a little on the expensive side, but thanks to open stock on art supply websites, you can always get a few just to try out for fairly cheap, maybe a couple dollars a pencil, which it seems a little steep, but that's actually a really good price for the quality that you're getting with these pencils. So if you have any questions or want me to do another video or a more in-depth video on these, let me know in the comment section. Feel free to like and comment, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss any new videos on any of coloring tutorials or updates or reviews. You guys have a great day. Thanks, guys.